This is Gumball Watterson getting launched into the ceiling after biting his own tail so hard that he knocks himself unconscious.
Guys, come back!
And this is him nearly getting sliced in half by a giant circular saw in the trash crusher. For most people, moments like these would be rare, life-changing accidents. But for Gumball, it's just another Tuesday in Elmore, which raises a serious question. If an insurance company had to cover Gumball Watterson, how much would it actually cost? Today, we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the most ruthless, profit-based, but completely legal insurance company imaginable to calculate exactly how expensive Gumball is to insure. And by the end of this, we'll find out whether Gumball is merely expensive or completely uninsurable. But let's start out with health insurance, because if there's one thing Gumball is good at, it's getting hurt. The average yearly health insurance premium for a child in the United States is about $3,200. That's the baseline, however, which is what Gumball would be paying if he lived a calm, safe, and relatively boring cartoon life. But oh no, he does not. And before anyone asks, we're not just adding hospital bills together. That's not how insurance pricing works. Insurance companies don't charge you based on what you've already broken. They charge you based on how risky and likely you are to be in the future. And Gumball has already made it very clear that he's a future problem. Let's look at the pattern. In the episode The Allergy, Darwin's sneezes are strong enough to launch people across rooms. Everyone else keeps their distance like normal human beings, but not Gumball. He straps himself to a tree just to prove he can withstand the force. Nobody forces him to do that. He voluntarily puts himself in danger because he thinks it's impressive. And if you're an insurance company watching that, you're already adjusting the risk profile. But it doesn't stop there. In the episode The Helmet, Gumball turns a simple science experiment into a full-blown chemical explosion directly in front of himself. He exposes himself to burns and physical trauma, and then immediately gets swarmed by ants biting him across his body. At this point, it's not bad luck. This is becoming a habit. You would think after one explosion, he might calm down, but oh no, he does not. Because in the episode The Shell, he falls from a significant height while chasing Penny and crashes straight into a house below. High impact falls are major red flags in insurance modeling because once someone has experienced a serious fall, the probability of future complications increases. That alone can shift someone into a higher tier. And just when you think that's enough chaos for one policyholder, it escalates. Because in the episode The Rival, Gumball nearly gets crushed inside an industrial trash processing plant. He runs across moving conveyor belts, barely avoids being sliced by a massive circular saw, and comes dangerously close to falling into a literal pit of fire. This is not playground roughhousing. This is heavy industrial machinery exposure. From an underwriting standpoint, this is categorized as severe trauma risk. But now, let's add documented injury history. Because in the episode The Fight, he gets reportedly beaten up by Tina and ends the day with a visible black eye. It does not matter that he didn't start the fight. Insurance companies are not grading fairness. They are tracking medical probability. Once an injury is documented, it increases projected future medical utilization. That's how the system works. But we haven't even talked about the episode The Disaster yet, because apparently conveyor belts and explosions were not extreme enough. In this episode, Gumball is ejected into the void, falls uncontrollably through unstable space, gets struck by debris midair, and barely survives. From an underwriting perspective, this is catastrophic exposure. Events that signal severe mortality risk. It pushes someone far beyond standard classification. In the episode The Safety, Gumball loses control in a moment of anger and bites his own tail hard enough to launch himself into the ceiling, knocking him unconscious. Later, while attempting to free himself, he willingly eats a cactus to retrieve a key. No one forces him to do this. This is pure impulsive behavior leading to a self-inflicted injury. From a health insurance standpoint, that matters. Head trauma is one of the most serious red flags in medical underwriting. Even a single loss of consciousness increases projected long-term medical monitoring and emergency room risk. At this point, the insurance company is no longer asking, is he unlucky? They're asking, how long until the next major claim? Gumball has documented a consistent pattern of high-risk behavior. multiple severe exposure incidents, documented injuries, and at least one life-threatening event. When insurers see this kind of profile, they do not apply small incremental increases. They may move the policyholder to a higher tier. And a shift like that is significant. For someone with repeated trauma exposure, industrial hazard incidents, and confirmed injury history, insurers can justify roughly an 800% increase over the base premium. So that original $3,200 a year, that jumps up to approximately $28,800 a year. And that's just to keep him medically covered. We haven't even touched liability yet. If health insurance covers the damage Gumball does to himself, liability insurance covers the damage he does to everyone else. And this is where things start to get extremely expensive, because insurance companies don't price liability insurance based on one accident. They price it based on how likely you are to cause future claims. Let's start with scale. In the episode The Microwave, Gumball accidentally creates a creature that grows large enough to threaten the entire city of Elmore. Public safety is compromised, infrastructure is at risk, and the potential for simultaneous third-party claims increases dramatically. At that level, insurers classify the policyholder as elevated exposure risk. Then there's the episode The Lesson. In this episode, Gumball deliberately starts with a prank that quickly spirals out of control well inside of school. What begins as simple mischief turns into a chain reaction involving multiple students and teachers. Hallways become chaotic, classrooms are disrupted, and the situation spreads far beyond what he originally planned. In a packed environment like a school, even one reckless decision can put dozens of people at risk. From a liability standpoint, starting that kind of disruption significantly increases projected claim frequency. But next, in the advice, Gumball's actions set off another chain reaction. Oil ends up spreading across the hallways, windows shatter, and hazardous conditions spread throughout the building. Oil on the floor can create obvious slip and fall risk. Broken glass raises the chance of injury. These are the exact kind of scenarios that insurers think about when assessing bodily injury exposure in public spaces. But then there's the episode The Goons, and in this episode, while trying to teach Anais how to be dumb, Gumball throws a notebook out the window. It lands on Mr. Robinson's windshield, blinds him, and causes him to crash into a fire hydrant. Later, during a so-called dumb race, Gumball and the others run blindly into traffic and are struck by a vehicle, which would be considered direct third-party injury exposure, tied straight back to Gumball's actions. When someone's actions contribute to vehicle accidents or hospitalizations, insurers classify that as high-severity liability risk. Taken together, these incidents demonstrate both scale and reoccurrence. But now, let's talk numbers. The average personal liability coverage for a low-risk household costs about $1,200 per year. That assumes minimal third-party exposure. But after repeated public disruptions, insurers could justify moving him into an elevated tier at roughly 50% more. City-level exposure, such as in the episode The Microwave, could push him further into a high-risk classification with an additional 75% increase. At that point, given the combination of catastrophic exposure, multi-party bodily injury risk, and reoccurring behavioral liability, insurers would likely apply a severe risk reclassification. For a profile like this, that could reasonably mean quadrupling the adjusted premium. Now, instead of just quadrupling, let's apply a true catastrophic classification multiplier. Let's say insurers impose a 10x severe liability factor due to repeated mass exposure, multi-party injury risk, and behavioral unpredictability. That brings his liability premium to approximately $31,500 per year. And when we put everything together, it comes to over $60,000 a year just to insure a single child. At that point, most insurance companies are not just increasing premiums, they are seriously considering whether or not they even want him on the books. And that answers the question. Gumball Watterson wouldn't just be expensive to insure, he would be one of the most expensive clients that any insurance company could ever evaluate. But that's about it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and click the video on screen. I'm sure you'll love it.